They did do something interesting with where the narrative went that was a surprise for me, which is that it took two things that felt inherently at odds with each other and made them bound together, which is, you know, the connections line they keep bringing up all the time. They drew a connection. In this case, they took the Stamatins and the Canes and their impossible polyhedron, their construction of such great prowess and technology that it emulates magic. And they tied that to the fate of the people that are so basic that they are betraying their credo by even thinking or having individual personalities or really acting at all. They're meant to be... their immunity to the plague comes from them being basically just bulls and nothing beyond that. And anyone, and the ones you see that are outside of that are basically divergent. Those two have the same fate in a strange way. And that's not the expectation. That's interesting. Well, day 12. Let's do it then. Time to turn off the lights. Wonder who those people are. Huh. September's been rough this year. I thought you'd ask me how I got into this coffin. You survived death. This is your victory. You're the only survivor. Only survivor? Or maybe you're not the only one. I don't know how many you've managed to touch, or will manage to. You still have the entire rest of the day to share your goodbyes with whomever you wish, to touch a last few souls. How does one survive death? Why does the disease kill some but not others? After all, it seems like everyone could have fallen seriously, terminally ill. Maybe it's the same with death in general. We think it obliterates everyone, but if you act just so, your intellect can overcome death, just as your body overcomes plague or typhus. Sounds nice, but doesn't hold up. The common cold can sometimes kill a person. What have you done to the town? And what has the town done to you? You wouldn't have been able to solve this problem without each other. Different creatures, as you are. An enormous town, a small person, an undetectably minuscule microbe. Three of you. You needed each other. And what exactly have I done to the town? You understood it. You bound its severed parts together, drawing new connections between the things that seemed incompatible. That is the essence of understanding. To understand is to become someone else. What seemed like death to the former you... what seemed like death to the former you is just a crack in the earth for the new you. It's still rather wide, but you can get across. As if the town cared whether I understood it or not. You've given your town a future. You've weaned it from the earth. And that's something. The nourishing umbilical cord must be severed at some point. Can we do without that? The people will become free. They'll discover their destinies within the town, and those destinies will shape it. They'll think of death how you've grown to think of death. Whoever survives something like this has nothing to fear. Go say goodbye to them. I'll just say my goodbyes. Where will you go then? To the heart of the town. The central square. To, I don't know, the theater. I don't have much of a choice. Don't worry. You'll have a choice there. Besides, you've already done all you can. All that's left is a bit of business to wrap up. Things that concern you alone. And you? Who are you? Who cares about you? You know what? I actually like myself. I've walked my path well these past 11 days. I can respect myself. Oop. And we're back. Exhaustion and hunger are set to 0. There's no red on my stamina bar. The costs I've paid is still there, though. My inventory is still here. The town is mine to explore. Always has been. I'll touch it one last time and then return to where it all began. Yep. One last time. Ah, we're not going to Haruspex lair? I think I'll check regardless. Yep, I'm not getting thirsty. Okay. All consequences are gone. I'm now just in a world, hanging out. But I still have a stamina meter. It just doesn't get shorter. What? That was a strong hitch. Hey there. Let's check on Notkin. There's no one here. Well, there's you. I can still trade with you. I swear to God, if I came here and there was a freaking schmouter. Are you gonna take today's map of infected districts? You're on it again. You're so brave now, but one day you'll walk into a district unprotected and bam, infection in your face. Or someone will get infected because they've got plague at their doorstep. And you won't even know. And then what? And then nothing, I'll figure it out. It's not like you can stop us anyway. We have no plans to fit in your hands. If you don't take it, another doctor will, a less squeamish one. You have a death wish? Fine. But you're spreading the infection too. How many times do I have to tell you? You won't hold us back. Fine. Have it your way. Here's the deal then. I'll bring you protective medicine. Enough for a couple of kids. And they'll be the only ones doing the scouting. Is that clear? Crystal clear. Thanks, Mom. We could find pills ourselves. We're not helpless, but sure. If you're so kind, how about bringing other useful stuff too? In exchange, we'll make sure the map is top-notch. A bargain, huh? We have the map of the infected districts, and we'll trade it to you for fat loot. I want to protect you, little rebels. Hey, revolver ammo. Shit. I basically missed this guy, didn't I? I remember encountering him before. I didn't realize it was going to be a daily thing. I suppose that's the downside of getting too used to relying on waypoints. Is that once the waypoints start not acknowledging something, you lose track of it. Like there was not a daily reminder to... There was no daily reminder to get the map each day, but there was to get the fund and do the doctor work and visit Aglaya and so on. But I should have remembered it, because it was from the previous game. There's no one here. Yeah, they would work on the map for you every day in the previous game during the Artemy campaign. And it came in handy. But frankly, you just gotta go where you gotta go most of the time. A lot of the time I just kind of went towards my goal and kind of just would bear the consequences of whatever regions I had to cross in the process. So I don't know how much it would have changed my behavior necessarily. I also constantly seem to be aware of my surroundings regardless. I think in particular, I think the game was nice enough to automatically convert all red zones into gray zones the next day, even if you hadn't visited them yet. So all I had to do was discover the new red zones each day, because the logic of the red turning to gray every day was so known and quantified that they just implemented it directly into the map every day, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure like the moment the map switched over, I would open the map and there would already be gray everywhere. And yeah, so much of the map was red and gray that really there wasn't really clean routes through any of it. You give up on that pretty quickly. So I'm thinking these might be gathering locations where multiple NPCs are all gonna like hang out. Because they're not hanging out in their houses. Notkin's not home. Yep, there's the Bachelor. The surviving Stamaton, a Shadow, and an Angel survived despite my lack of help, honestly. And there's just random villagers. There's a town still. Even if half the people who ran it are gone, but that might be for the best. This place is definitely going to change.
I'm exhausted. On my last legs.
Emshen? Oinen. Did I say it right? Emshen. You did. Well, this is it, I guess. It's just the beginning, Oinen. This pursuit of immortality will cost me my life. I doubt the powers that be in the capital ever cared whether or not I could defeat death. They just threw the heretic into the fire, hoping he'd never return. Excuse the pathos. Did someone send you here? I thought you came on your own accord. Yeah, you're right. I'm confused. I haven't been so drunk since my student years. Then again, it's hard to knock a doctor off their feet. I can still think, just not straight. So, cheers, I guess. A scientist, thrown into the jaws of death, hoping against hope to defeat death. Welcomed by death, ridiculed by death, taunted by death, and fooled by death. It's as if this heretic spat into the Tower of Flame, expecting somehow to put it out. This whole place is far too crowded with deaths. You've aged over these last few days, or are you just resigned now? Imperii sibi maximum imperium est. Nukani, Nienhen Zyla. It'll be fine. Was the Thanatos or Thanatarium or whatever explained in this game? Because the idea is that I don't remember if it was explained in detail this time or not, but we know from the first game that the Bachelor was here in order to try to secure a path to immortality. He wants to defeat death, that's why he keeps talking about that. And Simon Kane was supposedly immortal, and that's why he came here, to meet Simon. And Simon was dead before he got here. So the Bachelor and the Haruspex both come here to meet someone who is already dead before they arrive. The two of them, and the two of those people are linked to each other. Burrock and Kane, and they're linked deaths at the beginning of day one. But it's not as apparent until you get the chance to actually play as the Bachelor. Oh, are these your shadows? Do you have a shadow over here? I don't know, let's talk to you first.
What do you call such a person? You call him a slave.
You know, old boy, I was never persecuted for my genius, nor was I prosecuted for murder. And yet it turns out all this was my hell after all. What do you mean? I must go out. I must see her. Whom? My tower. You won't see it. It's no longer there. You're a cruel man, Burrock. Can't you see I'm mad? Would it be so difficult to play along for a bit? Then I could believe in a miracle for a few minutes longer. The Kanes want to build a new town across the Gorkon. You should go with them. We didn't see eye to eye, the judge and I. He argued the tower was never their family's crowning achievement, merely mine. And I concur. It was my crown. I fit the ceiling. So then you did see eye to eye. Yes, we shared the same opinion. Where's the inspiration in that? Consensus is an anchor. Say it, Brooke. Why do they say miracles have abandoned the step? It's the price we paid for curbing the outbreak. So my glass miracle vanished alongside your step miracles. You know, Brooke? Don't say anything. Let it be so. Yes, Peter. Your tower vanished along with our miracles. Hip. Where once was a person, now but a gap remains. This rupture will not mend. Farewell. So these are both dead people. Those aren't their reflections, they're dead people. I would guess Peter Stamerton, Stock Rubin, probably. If I were to put people here. Andre Stamerton, I mean. I'm mixing up the Stamerton brothers. Or Yulia. Yulia could be sitting alongside this group of people, potentially. They kind of fit. Aglaya is dead. I didn't even see the confirmation for that. I think Aglaya and Vlad both died off camera. I mean, everyone dies off camera in this game, but I mean, like, they didn't even give a notification. Something that stood out about Stock's death is that he died for plot reasons, but he died in a full screen, like, this guy's dead now animation, so that you knew. But I think Aglaya and Big Vlad both died without that notification, significantly increasing the number of dead. Oh, I'm gonna get my wish. I'm gonna get...
Twirine makes your head feel like lead. Good.
Okay, are you one of the voice actors from Oblivion? I feel like I've heard your voice a lot. I'm gonna get my wish, I just realized, because I'm gonna go to the theater, and I bet that the theater's gonna have all of the dead in it. So I'll have my one last death where I get to review... I get to see the macabre side of all of them sitting with their staring at walls and so on. A lot of people died.
Run a finger around a wine glass and she sings. Mind you, don't cut yourself.
I just want someone to pick me up and hold me. I thought you hated being touched. I'm only joking. I'd rather like some candy, though. Should I tuck you in, too? And sing me a lullaby. If nothing, you can act. That was a masterful depiction of a child. Man. Just slamming her, huh? Admittedly, Anna Angel, I don't think in any of the depictions has any particularly positive traits, does she? She kind of sucks. Her most interesting plot points are usually that she's suspected of some kind of murder. And then she usually just kind of makes demands of you constantly. Boy, she looks completely different from the first game, though. Her, like, it's such a... Her wardrobe is such a departure from last time. It might be one of the larger costume changes in the game. Whereas a lot of people are pretty familiar. I hope this game gets its additional campaigns as planned. It does feel incomplete. It's a fantastic game. It does so much well, and it's an improvement on the previous game in almost every way, in my opinion. But one big glaring negative trait compared to the first game would definitely be if it never gets its other campaigns. Because it's clearly a game designed around having 3 campaigns, there's an entire cast of characters you never really truly get to meet or experience. They barely exist in certain campaigns because they're much more important in other campaigns. A lot of most people get some kind of screen time that's more significant, if you can keep them alive. Speaking of keeping people alive, I really like the fact that people die in this game. It was kind of an issue with Pathologic 1 is that they refused to kill any main characters. So you had this giant list of characters like we do in this one, but all they could do is become sick, with the implication that when the game ends, they die. But they would still sit there in sick limbo so that you could talk to them for the rest of the game. Because of their quests. But this time they can die. What more did Reuben and Grief have to do with me? I don't know. They're dead. I can't feel my legs. Well, they're made of bones. I'm dying, Ripper. Only a tiny drop remains, like someone cleaved me in half, and it all spilled out. Were you really the plague, then? I'm not the plague. Do you still not get it? My sister was. And I'm the good one. Was the good one. I'm sorry. You're an idiot, Ripper. A dull, insufferable idiot. All that talk of rivers of blood, that's not what the story was about at all. You have no idea who's up above us. No idea who you actually killed. Above us? So who's up there? Someone you weren't even invited to meet. But they're waiting for me, poor souls. And now I'll never come. Well, maybe one day I'll figure out your side of the story. Explicit reference to alternate campaign playthroughs that are built into the premise of this game. Yeah, I hope that happens. I've been told that this game was a massive failure. And that doesn't bode well, because it's basically an early access game. It is a complete game in that it has a full campaign that seems to be its full vision of what it was supposed to be like. Oh, these shadows are rendering weird. What's happening there? That's creepy. It is a finished game in that you get to finish the campaign and it seems mechanically polished and finished and everything. There's only like a couple of quest logic moments, which I'm used to. Every time I play like a Western RPG, due to the ambition of how they work in general, there's always quest logic moments where like it just falls apart for a bit and that particular quest is fucky or something. So I'm used to that. I'm not going to freak out about that. Not like overall. Not unless the game's actively plagued with those things. I'll talk about them in the moment. But a lot of the stuff was great. But it still won't be finished until the other campaigns come out. Which might never happen. Is the concern. Because the idea is that they finished the one campaign to try to make up more money so they could finish the other ones because game development's hard. And, you know, a lot of the assets are done, so one would think that maybe it's not that hard. You know, it's still hard. Video games are hard to make, but I mean, like, the fact that they made the entire world and characters and all the physical assets for the majority of the content for the other campaigns, you would think would make them easier to make. It certainly would be easier than making what they made so far. But if they can't fund development, then that's hard to do. Maybe they would have to sell those campaigns independently instead of them having them be free patches in order to try to recoup any of the losses. I don't know. You can't really argue that it's not. If you're somebody who thinks about this stuff in terms of time being worth it for your investment, it's hard to argue that this isn't worthwhile in duration. So I guess this is the other termitary exit. I never got in here. I never gained access to this place. But yeah, they kept the weird staircase from last time. God, the screaming does get old though. Especially now. Didn't I defeat the plague and also all of the and also they're dying or failing, you would think that maybe there wouldn't be anything for me to scream in here anymore. I don't know. I hear I'm popular around here. Uh-oh. She's not here. The waypoint went away, so maybe it's just the changeling and nothing else here. I'll check upstairs just in case. It seems lighter in here, so I can probably tell better whether any doors are open or any people are standing around. There's the one glowy door that looks way lighter than all the other ones, so it makes you think that you can open it. No, I think this is just where the changeling is dying. Not to be confused with Clara. I think they made changeling the angry one and Clara the calm one in this one. I think that it was the character you play as. It's hard to be sure. I think that perhaps the version of the changeling that you would play as if you played as her was the one that we saw in the fog with the soldiers. And I think the one that we saw here is the one that maybe is a manifestation of the sand pest in some way, but it's hard to be sure. Look at that giant horn. Notkin, you survived.
Half men, half boys. No more knives, no more toys.
Is that somebody as half down there? The field mouse with the big tail and the hoppy legs. We've got Notkin, Taya, Aspity, and Oyen. What? Well, I saved you again. God, you're hard to keep alive, Notkin, but here you are. In the end, I'm glad it turned out this way. The tower was a thorn in the side. What are you doing here, Chief? I just came to listen. Fiery girl, isn't she? When she's a bit older, I'll definitely lure her into our gang. She's out of your league, boy. Got a whole herd of halves, that one. Those who spend all their time up high fall really hard in the end. That's how you get your dream dome smashed to bits. Bad idea. In the end, all dreamers walk the same earth, and I'm in charge of this here earth. Dealing in dreams? Nah, not for me. Some people like their dreams. Keep that in mind. Not everyone will follow you, at least not right away. Of course. There's also you. I really like you. Just look at your half. It clearly shows the quality of your quality of character. So you're with us now, yes? What's my half like? It's huge. So you're taking me into your gang, huh? Will you take me into the kin? Why would you want that? I'll build warehouses, just think about it. And what will you store there? I'll have a warehouse full of everything. Every miraculous thing. You know, rarities and oddities. Crucially, those will be things. Material objects, not ethereal reflections of dreams, icons. Things, get it? Have you ever run your hands over cloth, smelled walnuts, seen a piece of chenlin? If you like me so much, perhaps Jester will finally show himself. That's up to him. Fine. I'm a patient man. Kitty. What's the mouse for? You said that my half is huge. Is that my half, or is that something else? Because that's a tiny field mouse.
I think I'm seeing double.
Is that a real mouse, by the way, with the giant springy back legs and tiny, almost non-existent front legs? Like it's like a bipedal mouse. I mean, it is. Yeah, that's a bipedal. That mouse is basically bipedal. Huh.
I'm almost out of toys.
Benediction, I hereby grant you new law. Over your left hand, it is done, not the right. So speaks Mother Bodo. Unsure why she speaks so, but still. We will tell hands apart now. Timelda. Preaching already, girl? So, Medinegshe, here's another law for you. Never hold a grudge, for grudges are bad for health, and sneak behind. Bekara, whoever carries a grudge shall slip on it and break their neck. So speaks Suok. She'll see to it at night. Timelda, let it be so. Timelda. Medinegshe, heed our law. Never deceive or betray the small ones and the ones that trust you. It is not only Suok's nocturnal law, Mother Bodo would turn away from you, too. No harming the small ones. Timelda, let it be so. Yamabeke Basagandai. Medinegshe? Now for the most important law. The law of candy, sweets, and those soft white thingies they sell in shops. They are to be abundant. No one has the right to forbid eating them. Mother Bodo, somehow she will not see to this law, so I'll have to do it myself. Timelda. Oh, I wonder what I should invent next. I think that's enough law for one day. You've done a great job, kid. Why are you here? Sheyul Ned Erepshe? Did you come to listen to our not-so-highness? Ara Bosule. It didn't take you long to fit into your new role.
Better a thimble of blood in the vein than 1,000 gallons in the drain.
Hello, Aspity. We didn't get a ton of green time with you this time around. Ukedel. Earth is cold. My feet are cold. I'm going deaf. Blind. My hands are rough. Bolish. Bolish bayalish. In the end, it didn't work out your way. I knew it would hurt you, and I'm sorry. Bukara. Bo Shagna. I dahami kurene. I fear Earth is dying. Mother Bodo sinks into the depths. People begin to fear me, look through me, cross the street to hide from me. No one needs me. No one wants me. They fear what they don't understand. Who are you, truly? I am Saba Uste, flesh of Earth's flesh. Mother Bodo gave you a piece of herself so that you may have a mother. That was me. Unente. Today I return to Earth. Saba is Upshe, a Shabnak tale to frighten children. I'm sorry. Bokara, do not watch. Bao Shabna, do not listen. Oshishta, go, please. Bayarte, Kaibian, Kairatai, Anagni. Let your step be warm. Bayate. I kind of thought she might just disappear on the spot.
From the turn of the screw, we will learn what is true.
I am alive. Yes, you're alive. You understood nothing, Kindred. You failed to reach the kin's heart, failed to brave its depths, touch the shared pulse. You've abandoned your quest halfway. Say it straight. Failed to find out who killed Father. How will you live now, Kindred? So who killed Father? No, Kindred. Ask no questions. Perhaps in another life it would have gone differently, and we'd have a different conversation. But now, leave me. Your town waits for you. I agree for the Earth too, Kindred. That's what we've got for here too. They still require... Oh, they still cost fingernails. I was curious. I want to be thorough, but I think that's everybody. Oh, there's debris there. There we go. They clumped up a lot of the kindred together to emphasize the group that I've failed. Look at that shadow grow in front of me. It's the draw distance of the shadows. It's trying. You can definitely see the level of detail transition in front of me. It was especially apparent during the rain. Really what happens is I'm usually so busy trying to survive that I can't deal with looking at those parts of the screen and looking for details like that anyway. Like I remember in the early part of the game when I was still at time to not be on alert all the time, I was noticing that when you looked away from lights they would despawn, and when you looked back towards them they would respawn. And in particular it was noted by the fact that like the torch or lantern or whatever on the ground would have a halo of light that would expand from around it, basically. You can still loot stuff today and keep going.
Where's my doll? Who will feed it?
Is this our new house? I guess. Do you like it? Can I choose a room for myself? I think I know which one you'll take.
Enough blabbering.
So what's the plan now? Any suggestions? Well, first we'll need to settle down, of course. Fix up the household. And then... Okay, I made up my mind. I'll be your student. I thought you were already a learned specialist. Will you teach me? I guess I'll have to teach someone if I want to leave this place in 10 years or so. Leave? Where the hell are you planning to go? I'm kidding. Where would I go? I'm bound to this town now. You can't abandon us now. We need to fix the town, right? It's on its last legs. It won't survive without you. That's where you're wrong, kid. It will survive. That was the whole point. Perhaps it won't ever die. And now I've got kids, and neither of them are dead. And Grace is still somewhere? Not the graveyard this time. How much of a bummer would it be to go there and just see two shadows? Like it's just the two reflections of like, yeah, somebody could have been alive here, but they're not. Try again. So far I've been spared most of those people, which means that that just means we're backlogging them. There's gonna be a lot more shadows coming soon, I think. Hell, there might be entire locations on this map that aren't even spawning, actually. There might be an entire location where a bunch of them meet up and maybe it doesn't show up as a waypoint if they're all dead. Hard to say. There's the birds. I saw their shadows, but not them at first. That was supposed to be the big sign where like people who don't notice the birds are going to die or something like that was the superstition somebody proposed. Oh, first person I see is already one of these. This rupture will not mend. Even after you cure everybody, there are irreversible failures in all of this. But, oh, gotta keep the game going. Here's your marbles. This is a live town after all, and Artemy's still gonna live here. That's Lara. I'm guessing that that was Grief down there, and this is Ruben right here.
I think I'm fading. My clothes are worn out, threadbare.
Oh, I was just wondering if you'd come. Well, here I am. I heard you adopted some kids. Orphans? I did. How will you raise them? Some father you are. I think these kids have already raised themselves. Want my help? As in just help, you idiot. I just want to be useful. Make it easier for you, and maybe lighten my own life a bit, you know. I do, and I agree. Ah. One last satisfying and little detail, I suppose. That's the ending we get. That's more than anything our ending, I suppose. We had a final hurrah where we pledged to our futures, and then two of us died. And then it's the story of what comes after. In this case, I adopt two orphans, and Lara comes to the house to help me raise them. And we find new purpose after the apocalypse, essentially. I think of Dynasty Warriors of all things. Or I suppose Romance in the Three Kingdoms, and by extension just, you know, actual Chinese history filtered through periods of mythologizing and exaggeration, perhaps. But I think of the Cherry Blossom Oath, I think it was what it was called, where Shu Army General Liu Bei had his two friends, Guan Yu and Zheng Fei, and they pledged to fulfill their oath and to watch for each other and to seize their destiny and bring about a new brighter future for their country. They would go on to fail. Liu Bei would eventually have to, I believe it was he that outlived both of them. There's some legends and dramatic standoffs and great accomplishments by Zheng Fei and Guan Yu. But I believe they both died first. And then Liu Bei died and was survived by his son. And their strategist died. And just people just were lost one by one. It's because it's a real life story or some variation of it, instead of just something written down. Grand promises don't automatically end in being like a clear foreshadowing for the ending of a story. And so our final encounter, oh, there's the other one. Our final encounter with everybody being in one place at the campfire was not about how we were truly going to all stick together and survive this. Everyone split. Grief and Reuben both lost their way and went into completely disparate locations and were consumed and killed by those directions. And Lara very nearly did the same thing when she sought to murder Block and failed. And so stories just get messy, and who survives, survives, and that's it. Here's an interesting room of people. Are you a Cain? You're probably the would-be mistress who didn't survive. You're probably Maria Cana, looking out at the statue of your mother. These two were together, both survived. And then this is probably Vlad, next to Vlad. Yep.
What must be done, no matter how hard it is. Who knocks on your door at night? Who screams down your chimney? A wight? No, just the wind.
Mother would have approved of my ideas. She loved people. I don't. But I do believe that, when treated with respect, they return it in spades. Economic growth is based on human dignity. And dignity is a word that we haven't heard too often around these parts. Can you tell me more about your mother? No. I don't think the words to describe her exist in any human language. Care, protection, concern, warmth, regard, tenderness, love. This is stupid and wrong. Wrong. Personally, I've never been too close to her, you know? I guess you could even say I was the only person who did not love her. But it can't be denied that she was the safeguard of this town. She held it together. But now it holds on its own. I never loved my mother, but some things she taught me well. Particularly, that care is a very smart behavioral strategy. Respect and dignity are the concrete that will hold our new economic foundation together. What's your plan, then? I'll start with simple things. An 8-hour workday, forbidding child labor, insurance, benefits for disabled workers, better pay. Is that it? Is that not enough? In your place, I'd be more concerned about the commercial landscape. I know. I've thought about that too. Listen, Burke. Would you like to become my assistant? I'll need people to implement my ideas. Especially people like you. People from the kin. What do you say? Deal. I'll help you. Am I going to start over-promising? I don't know how many people are going to have requests for me. So far, I have a job and a family.
My patrons have spurned me, turned me out of their house, but they'll pay for it.
See? All the mistresses are here. So you plan to become a mistress yourself? I guess. Think I'll fail? What are you good at? Divination. I told your fortune, didn't I? That you'd spill rivers of blood, and you did. Drowned the whole square in it. Am I wrong? You're right. You know, Ripper, you aren't such a bad person. You didn't even hesitate when you took that awful poison to protect the orphan girl. By the Crowstone, remember? That was very brave. You don't wander, so don't wander too far. We're still connected, you and I. There's a great deal ahead of us. God forbid. We have both changelings.
Heavy heart, huh?
Highlighting the strangeness of that entire thing. You said all the mistresses are here. If that's Maria Cana... I was thinking maybe this was...
Always welcome.
This might be Sabarova, the wife. But wasn't she a false mistress anyway?
An honest hand will protect
So
a man.
when they say all the mistresses are here, you might just mean you, and you. But she's dead. So it's really just you and Capella now.
One day, I will grow real wings. Heavy, lifting wings.
I'm really very grateful to you, Artemy, for what you've done. You did everything right, guiding this town towards the future. I'll always be glad to return the favor however I can. I can hear the White Mistress's voice. I know you can't help but mourn the losses, but you've preserved what was most crucial, the Udur. Because the Udur is us. People. Children. We'll grow and build a new town. Better. More balanced. Where will you begin? I'll marry Casper. The Kanes and the Olgimskis will unite. Which... all the better since the Sabarovs don't exist now. So... they're both dead. So... these are the only two families that lead this place, so uniting is probably a good path forward. Both of you are half dead. One more accurately than the other. You each have 2 survivors, is the outcome. One from the older generation, one from the newer. Although, Vlad and Georgi are both different generations from each other, too. The Polyhedron, the Bull Enterprise, those were all cruel machines geared to produce utopias, factories that processed people into ideas. But we'll make a world where people's bones aren't crushed under lofty words. Don't you miss the Polyhedron even a little? No. It was a factory of fantasies. Beautiful, yes, but heartless. I know you didn't want to destroy it. Perhaps you even regret it. But that trap suffocated children. You released them. That was a good deed, Artemy. I guess. You always know the right words to say. She's the one I threw my chips in, ultimately.
No more games. No one needs us. It's all too easy to unravel into shreds and patches.
You're always so untimely. With all due respect, Doctor. I'm sorry about your tower, Casper. I had utmost respect for your father, Master Brooke. We weren't friends, and neither will I be your friend, but respect is possible. It's up to us. What do you plan to do now? Capella plans. Not me. We'll do everything together from now on. Ask her. So she's in charge. Somehow I'm not surprised. Believe that's everyone. One last walk to the storage box. For old time's sake, huh? I guess this is another victory. 2 of the pillars I stuck with was... one was keeping the list of bound alive. You fuck. I'm taking it out of spite. Here's your goddamn necklace. And here... and here's all of your nuts I was trying to trade you. God damn it. You know what? I'm keeping the necklace. Here's your nuts. I'm taking the schmouter. It lives in my inventory now. Of course. I'm losing my mind over here. It ultimately worked out, I guess. I was worried. Because they broke the rules and made everyone sick all at the same time, I was partly worried that they might all just become... They might all just die if I don't cure them. Like it was a test. Like, do you have enough spatters to save them all? It definitely still was a test. I didn't have any schmouters, but I did have my... no, I got one schmouter. I used one schmouter and 4 panacea to heal 5 of the 7. And that was good. Because if all of them were just treated with pills and not cured, I would not have pulled off the victory I had. There's no way that all of them would have won that dice roll. Probably a good third or half of them would have come out on the other side and died on the spot. And I got very lucky. I got very lucky. Because I have justifications. I was all explaining, like, this is why this person is going to be prioritized, or that person, and having, and the logic changed midway through, and so on. But, like, as far as I'm aware, I think the game pre-creates a seed of who's going to live and who's going to die. Like, what the dice rolls are each day. You can't save scum them or anything like that. They work like a tax in XCOM, if I remember correctly, where, like, it'll always hit the same dice roll each time. So, I didn't know which ones would die, but I'm sure some of them would have. But I happened to choose 2 people to risk that didn't get that dice roll. And so Taya and Notkin survived. And we're both coincidentally in the same scene in this epilogue, funnily enough. And there's the flowing blood. Does it just like swirl around here? It doesn't look like it's escaping anywhere. You can see the wreckage of the polyhedron in the background. Never went inside of it. I wonder if they'll let you in if they make a bachelor campaign. There were definitely some changes. Like here, the abattoir was a weird vision thing that may or may not have even been real. It was very strange. Maybe it was all literal. This game could just feel non-literal even when it doesn't intend to be, perhaps. But, by the end there, like that one encounter with the abattoir was the only time we went inside. There was no repeated runs through the whole thing.
A sword is like a spring, or a bowstring. The harder you pull, the further your thought reaches when you release.
So I found where I think Grief and Stock were. These are probably the 2 dead Canes. So I think the person in the bar might have been Eva Jan. These are the 2 Canes that died, Victor and Maria. Mistresses are not invincible, as it turns out. I guess they're gazing out at the wreckage of the polyhedron.
Sow an act and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. Sow a character and you reap a destiny.
I feared this town might be a cradle, but it ended up being a catapult bucket. Is it time to take off? Simon was better than me. He did what I never had the courage to do. Thrust a knife into his own firstborn. He couldn't bear the infant's scream, but still he succeeded. Simon Kane and Isidore Burrock vaccinated our town against death. The vaccination cost you the polyhedron. The polyhedron was a glass bottle. A clepsydra. I don't know the word, I'm just gonna say that. A compass. A work of exquisite craftsmanship. But merely a tool, like this town. The first of the many steps on this ladder. I'm glad we agree on this, Judge. We ascend. One step. A single step, but a crucial one. The mission of House Kane on this side of the river is over. So why does Simon, my dear twin brother, still haunt me in my sleep? It's called love, Judge. Grace, there you are, and yep, this side of town is where all the dead are. There's almost no one left. Who are you? Okay. I don't know, these might be the Sabarovs. It's a pair of dead people. Not a lot of the people that died can be paired off in this game, right? Ruben and Grief are probably in next to Lara. Eva Jan is likely... I think Eva and Andre are next to Bachelor and Peter. Don't know where Yulia might be. She also might... Any of those three might be there, actually. That's probably these two right... No, these two are right in front of me. Maria and Victor are over with Georgi. That does account for most of them, yeah. There's one stray shadow that I've lost track of where they were, and that's the outsider of this trio, I'm sure. Grace.
There's nothing wrong with... Actually, there's nothing wrong with anything at all.
24, 23, 7, 7 and 5. How's it going, Cup? Mother said she'll teach me numbers. Father will do letters. Then they'll let me get back to work. I'll stay at the cemetery and count the dead. Count them and then write it down. That's fine. If that's what I need to do to get back there, I'll do it. Did they tell you that from underground? Do you still talk to them? My foster parents, Alexander and Katerina. The governor's family took me in. Oh. Well. They couldn't have said that. Why? They're both dead. So what? Oh, I forgot who I'm talking to. So they adopted you. What do you mean? They had a different daughter before. And? Forget about it. I'm happy you found each other. What an ending. The Sabarovs are both dead, and now they're going to lead and counsel Grace. So I've only adopted 2, not all of them. Let's double check the children for sure. So Murky, yeah. Taya, Grace, Khan, yeah. Okay, so I found all of them. I found you guys. Yep. Not in Mark Immortal, but we know where he'll be. Yeah. That's everyone in the game. The only people we haven't met are the dead. Is Block dead? I can't tell because he's not on the screen. Gotta remember that. Everyone who is still alive has been found, but a number of people aren't. I kind of like how messy this was. It was a bit of a complaint about the last game. I struggled, made mistakes, did dumb things, all that other stuff, but coming up with a clean outcome wasn't that hard. I think I cured basically everyone in most of the runs, or all of them, or something. I think there was comments where like the one playthrough I didn't cure everyone, I actually did have enough cure for everyone, and I just like lost track of something. These are big, long, exhausting games, so I wouldn't be surprised if on the last day I was like resigned to finishing it and overlooking something in the process. But this time, it felt impossible. It's probably not. You can probably save everyone. I doubt anyone does it on their first attempt. There's so much mechanical knowledge to work on about how the game works and what you can accomplish and what things do, and then also the knowledge of all the different quest lines and how to best navigate them each day. There's probably a right answer somewhere in there, but it's a hard one to land on. So all the debris is gone, the pyres, the creepy ribcage things everywhere, the effigies. It's just you who continues. I'm really curious what this looks like when it's done, if it ever gets done. It looks like it was almost growing hair. It looks a lot like some kind of body. I'm not sure what. Maybe a bowl? Because, you know, the setting would make somewhat sense for it to be a bowl. But it almost seems insect-like. Could be a rat. I don't think it's a human, but that's hard to say. But it does look like hair was growing on it. I didn't look at it every time, and I don't know if I would have recognized the changes so clearly, but I do remember a time where it was just some weird branches, and then I looked up and it had like 2 rib cages. Yep. That's Vlad's chair. Yep, the dead are everywhere. I'm gonna replay all of them, even the ones we played before, as the final farewell.
My path was called tripwires of fate. I built the roads of this town such that humans became red blood cells in its veins, and I laid bare the logic of immanence.
It feels like they're basically explaining their D&D character's motivation motto. Like it's the line that governs their behavior in the game. You're very glowy for some reason.
My path was called the Warden. With the fruits of my sacrilege, I sated the town.
My path was once called Goldilocks, but then I wanted to offer my soul to the cathedral, so that it would hold something truly immortal.
Your costume also went through a really big change. She's a strange one. Don't get to spend much time with her, figuring her out. But she was, from what I remember, she was pretty airheaded and didn't have much to say or do in the first game until she went all martyr.
My path was called the Mistress. I tried to anchor the memory of my unearthly wife here in this town.
My path was not called the Spider. No, think wider. It was the silkworm. At the end of a railroad, I pulled strings firm. Unawares, someone more cunning pulled mine upstairs.
My path was called the diaphragm. I thought I was free to decide the fate of the kin. But fortune had something else in mind.
My path was called larger than life. There isn't a single boundary I haven't broken. I've done everything I ever wanted to.
I guess he's not exactly full of regrets at this point.
My path was called the restoration of power. I wanted to return strength and dignity to our country. I could have become the ruler were it not for the plague.
My path was called the Rat Prophet. I didn't know that it was he who whispered to me in dreams. Until the very end, I believed it was the Earth.
The Inquisitor isn't here. No? It would appear not.
My path was called the Return of Magic. I wanted the power to create a place of miracles and precious anarchy.
Her shadow is projected over who I assume was her mother. So if Capella had died, I assume she'd be right here.
For all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players.
Look who's here. Time to get real, then. You wanted to come round. Let's see if it worked. So, what do you think? Are you back? Come round. I didn't faint. Who are you? I'm dead tired. Who are you? Artemy Burke. Who are you? The man who tore this town apart and bound it back together. Where are you? Here. I was desperate at first. I thought we'd failed utterly. Like the astronomers of old, you know. The eclipse is short. It ends in the blink of an eye, and we missed the chance to observe and calculate everything we needed. And the next opportunity is a century out. Observe what? Calculate what? Humanity. Their limits. Their struggle to conquer death. This play wasn't the best. A flop, honestly, but it wasn't useless. I see much clearer now, and I know how to improve it. The next show will be better. So there'll be another performance. Of course, the show must go on. Why? Wasn't this one tortuous enough? We chose the wrong hero. Someone who didn't fear death at all. Disrespectful, crude, and flippant. We'll use a different archetype next time. A person obsessed with the idea of defeating death. Death's nemesis, so to speak. Someone who has studied it. Uh-huh. Good luck with the smartass. He'll surely win. Death cannot be defeated, but it can be overcome. Not by prolonging life, no. The Struldbrug method is ridiculous and stupid. People aren't yet strong enough to bear their own internal hell, or rid themselves of it. That's not how you overcome death. We've found the true way. I'm all ears. How many of you were here? The actors who played the Haruspex. I don't remember. I didn't count. Where was the real Haruspex? Gradually, the actor became him. They would only act the part when replaying a section, and become Haruspex upon unlocking new events. How does one overcome death? They're broken into many separate beings. The body is susceptible to death, as is the self, as is any being trapped within its bounds. They invite death the way a lantern invites insects. But that which is broken into many bodies, many selves, many perceptions, that thing can resist it. But this doesn't solve the death of the physical body. And bodies matter. Even towns have bodies, even people who become towns do. I have been in a multitude of shapes before I assumed a consistent form. As an ancient poet once said, "Who are you?" This question is a trap. Our work here is done. You can go to the dressing room and take off the costume. Remember the place? It's where you started. Good luck, and thank you for taking part in our daring experiment. No, I've found myself, and that's who I'm going to stay. I am Artemy Burke. I don't want to take this mask off. I'm going back to the town, back where I'm expected and loved. You choose your ending. It's all fake. But you knew that going in. Well, we did it. Let's see, what thoughts do I have going into the ending? I don't know, I had plenty of time to talk while we were going, because it's a spaced out ending where you visit everybody slowly. Huh, concept art's the first awarded... Does it get a quest update sound? Concept art's the first thing that they talk about. Interesting. Let's have a drink. This did a lot right. It felt like it had a bunch of branching paths and different parallel things that were all optional. and mandatory at the same time. There was a constant sense of uncertainty. You didn't know which quests would be there for days and which ones would be there for hours. Whereas last game, you had the one mandatory quest line of every day, and then anything else was unimportant and optional. That guy's name is in Comic Sans. I'm pretty sure it was. And that made things feel kind of iffy. If you want to talk about like acting along with a play and so on like that, the first game more or less had one mandatory path through the story, and if you failed any of the quests, then that day would just end. The simulation would keep running, but you couldn't do any more story for that day, and then you would suffer the consequences of failing that quest. And then the next day would just kind of continue the story, I believe, as if you had as if nothing had happened, essentially. So essentially you were just missing chunks of the story. Kind of like if you are playing Rock Band or a rhythm game and you miss a note and then the note just doesn't play, but then the song keeps going. That's my impression of how the campaign more or less worked in Pathologic 1. And it's just unsatisfying to miss out on the story entirely because it just a logic gate didn't work out for you or something, and now it's behind you. It wasn't. I wasn't a big fan of that structure. And then there was some side missions, and you could sometimes tell which ones they were. I think it had to do with their listing order or something like that. That would help you tell which ones were optional, or was it a separate tab? They might have been. I think they might have been a separate tab actually. So the quests were fewer and more linear and more obvious, although they were often obscure. I mean, obvious in their through line of the day. This game muddied everything like crazy. Some quests were much shorter, some were around for days. They had this act system where the acts themselves were sometimes more important than the days individually. So instead of having day-specific quests, you have quests that start on particular days, but might be there for the entirety of that act, of which there were 4 for a 12-day game. 11-day game, maybe. It's hard to call the last day a day when it comes to that kind of structure. I think I saw Mandalore Gaming on there. Alright, those are short credits because it's a small studio. Yeah, the simulation was better, the survival elements were better, the quests were more dynamic and interesting, the writing felt like it wasn't completely alien, while still maintaining the weirdness of the fact that they wanted to make it be a weird extended play, and a lot of really strange elements. Oh god, there were some really cool moments, like when the bell tolls, when the plague begins, and there are just tragedians everywhere across the city pointing the way. Some really surreal stuff like that. Some of that probably could have happened a little bit more later in the game, admittedly, than it did. So it kind of slowed down after that point with the weirdness. Although maybe they were doing a lot of the weirdness in part to kind of... Aglaya Lilich is right there in the list. Oh, is this Kickstarter backers? That's funny. That's funny. Another weird sound. That is a long name, sir. A very long name. What was I gonna say? Yeah, on some level, the slowness at the beginning might have gotten like, might have been something to justify all the weirdness. Like they got super weird in order to keep you a bit more engaged while the engine kind of took time to start. Is that somebody pretending to be Brian Fargo? Is that actually Brian Fargo, I wonder? I'd be curious about that. It is really funny that because like I said before, I watched somebody stream the first day or so. I was already past that point, so I wasn't worried about spoilers. And it was just amusing how like they were dismissing it as a walking simulator. Which is a game that doesn't really have mechanics generally. And it was hilarious to me just because I'm like, you don't even know. There's Sul Matul. I thought he had 2 L's at the end. I thought that I lost the thread a little bit. Listen, it's been long. I've played this game for like 5 hours today, and I've wrapped up the last 3 or 4 days of the game over the last like 3 or 4 days of my life. Trying to get them all back to back to keep it fresher, I suppose. Gohan Quest, the video game. Thanks, an inanimate video game. Gray Fox. That's either a furry or an Oblivion fan. But yeah, the way that they kept ramping up the mechanics, where somebody could accuse the opening day of being a walking simulator, and then by the end it's just like this frantic, desperate run everywhere as 17 things are going wrong simultaneously, and mechanics you couldn't even consider being potential bad news become new avenues for attacking you. Your save is not safe because dying permanently scars all of your saves of that entire playthrough. Things you can think you did a good job on a particular day, only to find out that the consequences come up 4 days later, well beyond the horizon of how far back somebody's usually willing to reload their saves, which is a good way of handling this kind of campaign. Things that you're depending on, you make plans based on what's happened in the past, only to find that the future changes and those systems won't exist. You think you have the supplies to get a schmouter from that vendor, but the vendor's gone. You think you've been trying to stock up on nuts and so on to get your next schmouter from these kids. Now all of the kids have been evacuated from the town. Things keep happening. You think you've had a hold on your population of your list, and now they're all sick at the same time. Final test, sir. Essentially, day 10 was the final test, and day 11 was just the final decision. It was your chance. You just had to do a little run around the town where you then just make your choice, and that was it. Where day 10 was the frantic, oh god, everything that I'm fighting for is about to die. I suppose there wasn't necessarily the strongest payoff for the list. I don't know. Your father explained that the list is the people who are going to rebuild the town to some extent. They're the future. So I guess based on that, the implication is that I succeeded. But I wasn't given a clear I wasn't given a clear marking point of like, you've successfully kept the list alive. Here's the thing that happened because of that. Or like, here's the ending that's only possible because of that, or something. In fact, all the way up until the final decision was made, 2 of the people were still infected. In a way they were treated as like a decision point. They were a sex bad. That guy does sex bad. Right on the list next to Shaft. Shaft and sex bad. But it was I lost my train of thought again. It's been a long day of this game. That guy from Germany. That's a username. I don't know. It was cool. It was full of surprises. Every day was desperate for new reasons, more or less, until the last day, which was just kind of relaxing, as I said, because I was like, well, all my mistakes are behind me, and I was right, because not a single new person was going to die at that point, except the implied post-credits deaths. Because even when you choose the option that saves everybody, the implication is that the Changeling and Aspity both die. Maybe Oyun, I'm not clear on that. But that's the implication, is that now it's time for those people to die, because you've doomed them. And all of the kin. Which didn't seem like it was going to be a lot. At the end there, they're like, we are all that remains. And I'm like, wow, that's 6 people. So maybe there wasn't much of the kin to save at that point. Even at that level. And one might wonder if the polyhedron was already killing the Earth regardless. It unleashed the plague twice. Do we have that much reason to think that it wouldn't unleash the plague yet again, as long as the polyhedron was still sticking it? Because the polyhedron was cited as being the origin of the plague attacking the town. So it would seem that that was going to continually happen. Because the polyhedron would still be there, even if we did what the kin wanted. So ultimately, it's the Canes who killed everyone. The town and the kin. So perhaps it's fitting that half of them died. Because boy did the town want them to die. It's like everybody except Georgi all died simultaneously. The day is over. A new pantomime is rehearsed at the theater. It is like the town itself knew that that was the source, the polyhedron, so it just spitefully started murdering everybody in that area right at the end. Even when I treated all of them to guard them against the disease, everybody fell ill against it, despite the treatments, except for Georgi, and then the next day they all died. That was a rough day. Well, that was Pathologic 2. That's probably it for me. Hopefully the new campaigns come out, and the game doesn't just end with one of them fulfilled, because that'd be a bummer. But, we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go, and I don't think, even if the other ones don't come out, I'm not sure if I would ever play the game again for YouTube, just because you can only do a few RPGs per year. They're so long, and I have a massive list of ones I want to cover, and more will be coming out soon. It's not the most busy genre, but it makes up for it with length. So, thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow when I pick what comes next. And I encourage you to do your own run, I suppose, if you haven't already. Although you've been a bit spoiled along the way. But see what you can pull off and all that. Go for your perfect run, I suppose. But yeah, this was a successful sequel. Except for the part where maybe it wasn't and won't get any more support. We'll see. See you guys next time.